Hello, and welcome to Budget Boss. Command your finances by creating and monitoring a budget. Christian Credit Counselors offers this free webinar to guide you in creating and sticking to a budget to achieve your financial goals. I am Brittany Frost, Education Specialist in the Education Department at Christian Credit Counselors. I have a degree in education as well as several years of teaching experience. It is my job to provide financial education to help people develop good habits on their path to financial freedom. It is a pleasure to conduct this webinar to teach the budgeting process so that you can learn how to best handle your money and to start saving for your future. At Christian Credit Counselors, it is our mission to help individuals and families burdened with financial pressures learn how to become debt-free and attain financial freedom. We will provide financial management skills through the highest quality programs, education, and counseling. In delivering our superior products and services, we are dedicated to providing industry-best customer support and satisfaction. This webinar was created to give you a general overview of budgeting and the budgeting process. It will also teach you how to create wealth, not just how to get by. You'll see that you can do this by decreasing your spending and expenses, and this webinar will help teach you how you can start thinking about increasing your income. It will also outline some ways that you can avoid common roadblocks or financial missteps that happen to some people. It will also give you helpful resources so that you can create, maintain, and monitor your own budget. In simple terms, a budget is a plan to meet your financial goals. I cannot stress how important a budget can be in your life. Whether you are deep in debt, in depression, stressed, you have anxiety about your future, or you're just starting off with a few expenses and little income. A budget is a way to basically give you complete control of your finances. It will give you information about everything you spend. It will give you a chance to evaluate income and everything you have coming in as far as your assets even. It will just give you complete control overall. So why is a budget relevant? A budget is a way to achieve your goals. As you can see in this chart, goals, or the things that you are trying to achieve, are in the center. Budgeting, the use of credit, and your debt all can affect your goals in different ways. A budgeting is just a way to meet your goals. If you budget properly, a budget can also affect your credit. If you handle your money well, with a budget and you can repay your credit, you will have a good credit history, which will then help you work toward your goals. For instance, if your goal is wanting to buy a house or a car. Debt also factors in here. Again, with a budget, you can hopefully help manage your debt, or you can use a budget to help you start getting out of debt by cutting expenses or increasing your income and recording all of your activity financially. A budget is very important. There are countless reasons why people should budget. To list a few, it helps plan for your future, it guides and directs your behavior, it provides clarity, increases your motivation to achieve your goals, it can reduce stress and anxiety, it makes you aware and informed of your financial situation, which is the first step in making most decisions. It can prevent impulse spending. It can protect against unforeseen events or debts. But in general, it gives you complete control of your finances. If you can see everything that you spend and all of your income and assets, and if you record your behaviors and can study and maintain it over time, you will know everything you need to know about your situation financially so that you can make the best decisions moving forward. The budgeting process can vary based on the source. However, today in this webinar, the general process that we will discuss are setting goals, evaluating your assets, creating the actual budget, and monitoring your budget. Overall, it should be maintained and can take work, so it's important to choose a format and process that works for you and that you are interested in, because that can be a big factor in your motivation. Whether you stick to your budget or not depends on your discipline and motivation. Goals play a huge part in motivating you to save money. They are possibly the most important part of the budgeting process, because without a goal and a reason to save, why do it? There are many types of goals in life, such as career goals and family goals. However, today we are focusing on financial goals. In general, the lengths of goals include long-term goals, mid-range goals, and short-term goals. Short-term goals are those goals that you would like to achieve in the next 1 to 2 years. For instance, if you'd like to start a savings fund, you have to decide on the total cost or the total amount you would like saved, the term or the length of time that you would like to have this accomplished by, and then the monthly amount. Mid-range goals are those goals that you would like to achieve in the next 3 to 5 years. For example, a down payment for a car. Again, you would need to decide on the total cost that you would need for whichever car that you would like, how long it may take for you to get it by, and then the monthly payment. Finally, long-term goals are those goals that you would like to achieve in 5 or more years, even up to retirement. In fact, a retirement account or saving for a retirement account can be an objective for a long-term goal. Again, you must determine the total cost, the term, and the monthly amount. In creating your budget, it is important to decide whether you want to start writing your short-term goals first, your mid-range, or long-term. Some people decide to start writing their long-term goals first to give themselves a big picture about their life and what they want. Then they work their way down and break those up into smaller goals. Other people like to start writing their short-term goals first so that they can see an immediate or achievement sooner. To record your goals, see the financial goal worksheet in your webinar handouts. Record each goal, the total cost needed for the goal, the term, and the monthly amount needed to save for the goal. Also, make sure to mark the priority of the goal on the left side. For instance, the goal on the top of your priority list will be marked 1, the next priority goal will be marked 2, and so on. It is up to you on how you prioritize your goals. For example, it may be more of a priority to pay off credit cards or current debt to avoid legal trouble rather than saving for a new car or a new house or cottage by the lake. To prioritize, ask yourself, what do I need to achieve now or in the future to stay current on my payments and keep all of my assets? It is important to stay focused on your goal, but you also need to focus on the behaviors that will help you reach it just as much. In this case, that would be your financial habit and budgeting behaviors. A budget consists of 3 main things: income, expenses, and the balancing of these two. Evaluating your income and assets will help you learn your situation to decide what you can and cannot afford. Now that you have set your goals, you can fill out your asset evaluation worksheet located in your webinar handouts. Assets are items of ownership or total resources of a person or business. In general, there are 2 types of assets: liquid and frozen. Liquid assets are the funds that you can access quickly and easily without a penalty. For example, a checking account, savings account, or cash on hand. Determine the value of your liquid assets by listing the funds that you currently have available in your bank accounts. Available funds are those left over after any pending purchases or transactions have cleared. Liquid assets also include cash that you have at home. After listing all available cash sources, write the total funds available in the space provided. This amount is what you currently have for emergency savings. Ideally, this total should be enough to cover 6 months' worth of expenses, but at a minimum, no less than $2,000. If you do not have this, maybe a good short-term goal is to try to achieve this. Frozen assets are the funds that are not easily accessible and could result in a penalty. For example, investment savings, retirement savings, and physical assets. This includes money that you have contributed to retirement plans. Frozen assets can also include physical assets, such as items you own that have value and can be sold. Now that you have a picture of your current assets, you know how much money you have available to cover your monthly living expenses, emergencies, and funds for retirement building. Schedule and complete a new asset evaluation form annually or upon a change in assets. This, in addition to monitoring your bank account daily, will contribute to your continued financial success. Once you have evaluated your assets and seen everything that you own, you can start creating your budget. The first step is choosing your budgeting tool. There are many different tools out there. So for instance, if you find that you enjoy using technology, perhaps you will choose an app on your phone or a program that you have found online to create and monitor a budget. There are many different tools that you could use, and we will discuss them on the following slides. For this webinar, we are using Christian Credit Counselor's monthly budget worksheet that is located in your webinar handouts. Once you have chosen your tool, identify and write your income as you discovered and evaluated with the Asset Evaluation Worksheet. Next, categorize your expenses. There are many different ways you could do this. In general, there are 3 types of expenses: fixed, flexible, and optional or discretionary. Fixed expenses are those that are a specific amount each month and that are the same each month. For instance, your mortgage or rent, your taxes, your car payment, your health insurance, childcare, etc. Flexible expenses are those that can be different each month. For instance, the amount you put towards savings, the amount you spend on electricity or heat, the amount you spend on food, gas, or other personal expenses. And finally, discretionary or periodic expenses are those that can occur regularly but not necessarily monthly. For instance, entertainment, anything you pay for vacations or spend on traveling, home or car repairs, medical co-payments, car registration, or just things you spend on hobbies, lessons, sporting activities, clothing, or pets. You could choose to organize your expenses this way, or some people simply make categories like housing, utilities, transportation, food, medical expenses, and of course a category for miscellaneous expenses. You may also wish to organize them by priority, having your highest priority expenses first, or the ones that you need to pay right away. Again, the categories depend on you and they can be adjusted at any time. Either way, make sure you have a category for extras or miscellaneous for those unplanned or occasional expenses that don't fall neatly into a category. Next, record your expenses. Sometimes recording a budgeted and actual amount will help you discipline your spending. The budgeted amount is the amount that you are budgeting out for your expense. The actual amount is the amount that you actually spend on the expense. The goal is to set a budgeted amount and not exceed it. If you do not know which categories to use or how much to budget for each expense, track your spending for a month. This means writing down everything that you spend your money on, cash, credit, or debit, including your regular bills, mortgage, groceries, coffee, newspapers, and so on. Carry a notepad if you need to. Even ATM withdrawals should be included. This step can be a necessary preliminary step and will make it easier to create a realistic budget. Then, after you track your spending for a month, you can create and organize your categories. Once you have categorized and budgeted an amount, now record what you actually spend in each category. Every time you make a purchase, record it or make a note of it right away so you do not forget. Again, the goal is to not exceed your budgeted amount and even come in under that so you have more money for savings or to pay off your debts. You must constantly work to keep your budget balanced. You can do this by recording your actual expenses and adjusting funds accordingly. Finally, the last step in this is to subtract your expenses from your income. Here you will see the monthly budget worksheet by Christian credit counselors, which you are free to use for your budget. You will see everything that we talked about. For instance, a place to put your total monthly income, the categories starting with housing and then going on to utilities and food, the actual amount that you will have spent on items, as well as the budgeted amount that you set out for those items. Finally, at the very end, after you've filled everything out for the month and adjusted, you will find a place where you can subtract your expenses from your income to see what you have left over. We will discuss this amount in a few minutes because it is very important, and what you have left over will determine basically all of your behaviors on your spending and income. After you subtract your expenses from your income, if you see that your expenses are more than your income, you'll have to cut expenses or increase your income. We will discuss more about how to do this in the following slides. It is important that you constantly monitor your budget and make adjustments like this as necessary to make sure you are not in the negative. Research and choose a system that works well for you. The same system does not work for everyone, so it may take patience and adjusting. To budget and monitor their budget, some people use programs such as www.mint.com, which automatically pulls all of your financial information into one place so you can see all of your balances and transactions together and get the entire picture. It comes from the makers of TurboTax and Quicken. It is easy and free to set up and gives you alerts and real-time updates. There is also a program at www.quicken.com that you can feel free to check out to see if it works for you. Some people prefer to just use Microsoft Word or Excel sheets to create and monitor a budget. If you use Excel sheets, it may be able to total everything up for you for easy maintenance and monitoring. You can also check free apps on your phone or free apps or programs that you find online besides these. In general, though, it would be nice if you could find a free program so you don't have to pay to budget. You can budget by yourself for free. Just remember that. Some people prefer the envelope system. They create a filing system with envelopes with categories for spending and for important documents like statements. You can even use cash only. File the statements and documents by their date. Some people just prefer to use paper or keep track of all of their spending on their phone. The whole goal of a budget is to make sure the number at the bottom of your budget is 0 or greater. If it is greater, you are creating wealth for your goals and repayment of debts. If it is less than 0, you need to either increase your income or decrease your spending or both. Of course, it is not always this simple, and sometimes mistakes with budgeting can be made because of lack of motivation or the attitude about spending. Continue recording the actual amount as you pay your bills on your budget sheet. If you come up short, look for ways to adjust your spending. If you end up with a positive amount left over, go back through your budget sheet. Did you account for all of your monthly expenses? If so, now you have more money that can be put toward your long-term savings goals. If you have a negative amount left over, adjustments will be needed, but do not be discouraged. This can happen often. Which monthly expenses can you reduce and by how much? Look at any expenses that can be cut down or do not need to be purchased every month. Everyone's expenses will be different, but some examples of areas you may be able to reduce spending in include clothing, eating out, entertainment, cable, cell phones or landlines, and insurance rates. The larger the negative amount is, the more you will have to cut back. Look at each item and ask yourself, is this a need or is this a want? A need is an expense that is necessary for survival, such as food, housing, or utilities, followed by transportation, because that could get you to a job, which will get you income. You may have some control over how much you spend on need items, but they are not something you can live or work without. All other expenses are considered wants, the things we spend money on for convenience or entertainment. Can any of your need expenses be reduced? Can you reduce the grocery expenses or the amount you spend on your cell phone plan? After you have reduced everything you can from your need expenses, look at cutting back the want items until the budget is balanced. To decrease spending, you should still always look for different ways to save and cut costs, whether that is by talking to family and friends and searching for tips that way, or reading articles and researching things online. Some tips you may want to try first include having your paycheck directly deposited into your account, automatically depositing a certain amount into your savings, turning off your lights when they're not in use, turning your heat down to a comfortable level, of course. Obtain low-cost phone services. Look for sales, perhaps garage sales or yard sales, or even shop on clearance. Review your spending plan and stick with it. Again, make sure whichever tool you choose is accessible and you can view it and adjust it every day. Only buy what you need. Eat at home rather than eating out. And create a revolving emergency savings fund for those unexpected costs that may arise. Constantly ask yourself, how else can you save? Extra tips may include taking 24 hours to think about a purchase before you make it. Also, in a budget, a good tip is to overestimate your expenses and underestimate your income when making calculations. It's better to have excess funds than to have a shortfall or accidentally overdraw. Get help in creating a budget. Ask family members or friends to collaborate with you, especially if the budget affects them. Constantly examine your categories and make adjustments. And finally, don't spend more on your credit card than you can afford to pay each month. In addition to decreasing spending and expenses, you can also increase income in order to create wealth. There are several different ways to increase income. One is through employment. If you are already employed, you may want to look for different employment with better benefits or higher salary, or look for additional employment to add to your income. To help with this, it's good to just be aware of all the different types of employment so you can be creative about how you want to use one or piece many together to increase or establish income. Full-time permanent work is regular and ongoing work of between 35 to 45 hours, which includes non-wage entitlements and benefits like paid holiday leave, sick leave, and long service leave. Part-time work is regular and ongoing, and it involves fewer hours than full-time work and is usually a set amount of days and hours. Benefits can vary based on the job and the employer. Fixed-term employment, also known as contract work, is used for single projects or to replace workers on leave. It is common for fixed-term employees to not receive entitlements like paid sick leave. Casual work is ongoing and involves irregular hours and hourly pay. Casual workers often work on an as-needs basis, meaning you work when you are required to. Apprenticeships and traineeships are fixed-term employment, usually 3 to 5 years. Apprentices typically learn a trade such as plumbing, and trainees typically learn non-trade occupations such as secretarial work. This type has a specified base rate of pay given to cover the employment period. It is also important to research other opportunities like tutoring or coaching. You could even visit a local university or school about helping out kids in an after-school program or being paid to tutor. In general, it's best to keep researching even if you are already employed and be creative and informed. After you create more wealth by increasing income, decreasing your spending or expenses, or by researching and adjusting your attitude about finances and spending in general, you can use that money for your savings and for your debts or other goals, which sometimes are all the same. Determine how much extra debt you have after your regular monthly expenses are paid, whether they are credit cards, medical bills, collections, student loans, and so on. Know or find out the total balance owed, the interest rate, and the minimum payment. Keep your payment the same. Don't lower your minimum payment as the balance and minimum payment lower. This pays it off earlier and with less interest. Some people pay extra to the account with the highest interest rate so they can pay less over time. Others prefer to pay off the smallest debt until everything is paid. Either way, start with the high priority items first. Finally, consider a credit counseling company to help pay off your debts sooner and educate you on the best financial habits. Do not settle your debt. Another way to monitor your spending and your budget in general is knowing and regulating your spending percentage. If you don't know where to start or how much you should be spending on each category, research the norm and decide what works for you, and calculate your percentages according to what people normally have spent. For instance, this pie chart shows how Americans spent their money in 2012. This data came from the U.S. Department Bureau of Labor Statistics at www.bls.gov. To calculate your spending percentage, use your total expense divided by the total net income. Always divide the smaller number by the larger number, and it should equal less than 1. Priorities vary slightly from person to person, so you need to take a hard look at your specific situation, but there are some basic guidelines you can follow. First, cover your very basic needs or necessities, such as food and shelter. Next, some people choose to pay off their debt, whether it's secured or unsecured debt. If you are debt-free, you should be saving at least 10% of your income each month. Some people do this the opposite way and put money into savings for any unexpected debt in the future or unplanned events. No matter what, the very last priority should be all of your extras, your discretionary spending on things like gym memberships, eating out, and entertainment. Whatever you do decide to spend this on, make sure it enhances your life and fits in with your goals. Do not overspend on this category, especially if you cannot afford it. In general, if you are unsure about what you should be paying or spending on first, ask yourself which consequences of not paying are the worst. Some bills are classified as priorities because the consequences of not paying them are greater than the consequences of not paying others. For instance, if you do not pay your student loan, the consequences and legal action of that can be way higher than if you decide not to eat out on a Saturday night. It may also help in monitoring your budget to create a payment checklist. In this case, a payment checklist is located in your webinar handouts. This is one that Christian credit counselors created to help you keep track of your bills. First, you'll list the bill priority. Then you'll list the company or the name of the bill, the amount due, the due date, the date you paid the bill, and the remaining balance left. There is also a place for notes and a place to check if you paid it or not. Again, this is a great way to keep track of your bills so you do not miss a payment. One of the biggest roadblocks of budgeting is lack of motivation or care. If you ever find yourself wanting to give up, revisit your goals and even post them in a visible place so you can see and be reminded of them every day. Be proactive. It's all about your behaviors and what you are actively trying to do to budget and get out of debt. Find a format that works for you. This may take several tries. No matter what, keep adjusting your budgeting tool until you find a process and format that you like. And finally, always get and stay informed of your situation, even if you have to make tons of calls to find out your balance, your interest rate, and exactly how much you have in debt. This is a very important piece to completely know everything about your situation so you can take control and make good decisions. For more information on the financial education programs and services of Christian credit counselors, as well as other budgeting and employment resources, refer to the resources page in your webinar handouts, which can be accessed through the link below the video. You will also see even resources to help look for extra employment. If you have any additional questions, contact the Education Department at Christian Credit Counselors at education@christiancreditcounselors.org or call 1-800-557-1985 extension 131. If you have extra time, please take the Budget Boss webinar quiz through the link below the webinar video. This will provide us with information of how we can make the webinars most effective. Please click on the link below the webinar video as well to take the webinar survey. Your feedback matters. Tell us how we can better serve you. And finally, thank you so much for your time. We appreciate the time you took to learn how to create and monitor a budget. This is a great first step, or step in general, to taking control of your finances and achieving financial freedom. We encourage you to use our resources to continue your research and pursuit of financial stability and success. Thank you.